Well, good evening, Pure Officiating Universe. It's December 22nd at 7 o'clock Central Time. And whatever time it is and whatever time zone you are, I'm sure you're aware, but this is the time where we go ahead and get started. My name's Daniel Young, coming to you live out of Kingwood, Texas, just northeast of Houston. We've got the usual cast of characters with us this evening. Mr. Corey Luxner, Mr. Tuta Salam, and Mr. Brandon Cruz. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Really looking forward to, is this our championship edition? Is that safe to say? Maybe we'll have another championship edition when it's all said and done. But we've got a little championship edition Pure Officiating tonight. Cool time of the year. Hope everybody is really enjoying their holiday season. Getting ready for Christmas coming up. Got a bowl game going on right now. I know that you are sitting on your couch with your computer on your lap and the TV on in the background, and that is okay. You're right. What could be better? What could be better? I mean, not only is it okay, that's the correct mechanic. Although we're no official authority or anything like that. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and get started. We've got some good plays lined up for you tonight. Thanks for being here. Make sure you engage with us. Get on in the chat. Say hello. Share your feelings. And let's have an awesome session tonight, men. What do we got?
Uh-oh. Here we go.
What do you think?
Let's go.
Right into it. Let's do it.
Right into it. A little targeting. Why not? Why not? Get rolling on some targeting. We've got some polls, bunch of polls for this play. So we're going to see a lot of different angles of this play. First poll, you have a coin flip. Is the player receiving this hit a defenseless player? All right. So just remember, we could ask, is this targeting or not? But that doesn't really fit. It doesn't really fit the way we approach and attack these plays.
That's not who we are.
It's not who we are.
He's got a shoulder. He's patting his shoulder.
Yep. That's why it's important to know that, right, Brandon? You're asking this question for a reason, right?
This would be the number one decision maker. Not number one of importance, but I think number one in the flow chart. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
Didn't you make a flow chart? Oh no, that wasn't you. There's no way. Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, Brandon. All right, let's stick to the script here.
Stick to the script. Yeah. My bad. Yeah, I know we talked about that. All right, get your votes in. Get your votes in. Some real speed.
Should we define defenseless player? Should we help people out by defining what a defenseless player
start?
is?
Let's do it. Or should we wait till the poll response? We don't want to skew the votes. We've gone through that.
It's interesting. We have a few coming in. Yeah, okay.
So, okay, we'll get warmed up. We'll end the poll and get right on it. We're going to have more questions on this play. So,
yes.
We've got a little over 90% saying yes, defenseless player. So I think this would be the appropriate time to define the defenseless player.
Okay, so, of course, I'm not prepared. My iPad is being charged up in another location, but I had to step back. I'm pulling it up right now. It's Rule 2. It's going to help us out, right? Rule 2 is going to define defenseless players. Hold on. DEFE. Sorry, I got to spell out loud when I'm typing. I can't do multiple things at once.
FR43, Tuta, top of FR43.
Go ahead, Corey. Roll with it.
All right. Defenseless players on FR43. This is Article 14. It says a defenseless player is one who, because of his physical position and focus of concentration, is especially vulnerable to injury. When in question, a player is defenseless, and then they go through. Then we have 11 or 12 examples.
Okay.
Defenseless receiver.
Which one of those examples would this dude fall under?
I would say this would be B, a receiver attempting to catch a forward pass or in a position to receive. It's a forward pass, or he's not had time to protect himself after becoming, being that receiver.
There you go.
Number B.
Yeah, so really good. Like we could, hash the rules. I think this is it. But doesn't this strike you as maybe He's clearly a defenseless player, by the way, but it's a little bit different than what we're used to, don't you think? Like usually it's a player stretching out to receive a pass, whatever, in a very vulnerable position. Not that this isn't vulnerable, but this is just different. Daniel, what do you see for the difference?
I think that's a great point. And I think we do a good job of pointing out those things that look visually different to us. And this is why we watch so much film, right? So because the less that we're surprised on the field, the better we're going to be from an accuracy and just processing the action standpoint. So I think that's a really good point for us to acknowledge, just kind of here in our study group, that oftentimes when we see the receiver who's defenseless, he's in the ball's either hitting his hands or just hitting his hands, and he's staring up at the ball oftentimes. And so this is a really different look for us. Absolutely someone who is still defenseless and that he has no opportunity to protect himself. And I think in a book where sometimes our definitions aren't super clear for us, this is a pretty good one when we talk about area of concentration and being especially vulnerable. That definitely fits the bill for this young man.
And then I think the key point to wrap it all up too is when in doubt, he is defenseless, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And even if we can't fit him into one of it's funny that we have 12 or whatever categories or examples of defenseless players. Like, who can recall that? But if you can't, I mean, it literally is that first sentence, right? The body posture and vulnerable position, can't really protect himself. And by the way, it a lot of times, like, it overlaps with the process of the catch, but not always. There is that little gray area where the process of the catch could be completed and over, and not saying that's here, but he still might be defenseless. All right.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Poll 2. So here we go. We're going through our process here. Look at the poll. Play is the same. Does the defender display a targeting indicator of attacking the receiver? And we'll probably have to dive right back into that rule book as well after this one. I think here's where we got a little questionable the other day, at least from the couch officials like me.
Yeah, maybe from the TV talent.
We did that too.
But pure officiating's all over it.
Pure officiating's all over it. So just when we're thinking about attacking and indicators, and we can kind of lump those words together, maybe. But do we have a really solid working definition of that, Daniel?
There's a little bit of language. If we go to 914, hold on, I'm pulling it up. I wouldn't call it a really solid definition, but there's some language I think that helps us a little bit. Mm-hmm. If anybody has it pulled up, feel free.
Yeah, it's note 1 on FR.
Number 1. That's right.
Yeah, it's just targeting means that a player takes aim at an opponent for purposes of attacking with forcible contact that goes beyond making a legal tackle.
Yeah, so it uses the word in the definition, which is never great. Right. But I think if we think about, he takes aim for the purposes of forcible contact that goes beyond making a normal tackle. Now, listen, all of us probably played, either Pop Warner or middle school at some point, and somebody taught us how to tackle, how to get our face mask up, head to the side, through the shoulder, wrap up, and then foot drive. So if we think about, I don't know if that's what the rule book has in mind, but if we think about that as a normal tackle, then this act of throwing our shoulder, and even though we may not launch in the sense of both feet get off the ground, but turning our body and using our shoulder to take aim, I think maybe that can help us. Are you guys feeling me a little bit, or am I out on that?
No, I like that. No, I'm with you.
Okay.
Let's keep the play going.
I got it.
Okay, thank you. I really like that. The poll is in 87%. Yes, defender displays an attacking indicator, and so what are we used to talking about? Launching, upward, thrust and crouch or crouch and thrust. There's some wording like that. And this is really neither one of those. I don't really see a launch here, you know. I mean, so, nope. But taking aim with the purposes to attack, you know, and also just what about the present, you know, what about low risk indicators? Other than turning our head to the side, man, this is clearly somebody who's taking aim with the purposes to attack this player, right? You know, is there anything we could point to that this is not that?
No, yeah, we don't see him wrap it. We don't see him bringing his arms to wrap. He's clearly attempting to use his shoulder, like Daniel mentioned, and just drive through the body of the player who just caught the pass. He really just wants to drive his shoulder into the body of that player.
I think this is a good example of bad technique, the kind of technique that should, you know, when we're thinking about this on the field, that we see this type of technique, that should raise our antenna a little bit, because that is not the one that's going to take targeting out of our hopper, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, that's when you think about how many times have we seen a tackler try to make this kind of tackle on an upright runner and bounce off them? Well, that happens because this is bad technique. This is not normal tackling technique. This is not how coaches teach to technique. Whereas, you know, we've got the head to the side, but if we maybe just pick it up a little bit, we wrap our arms around the receiver in the same contact, then we're sitting here watching this play saying, golly,
great job.
He hit him in the head, but shoot, he's just trying to make a tackle.
Yeah, or trying to catch the receiver, you know, instead of going after him, right? I mean, so all of these things, there's a lot of words we're throwing around, but these are the things I hope where we're getting to with this foul code. And we have a great, I thought it was great anyways, although I'm a little bit biased. We had a great study session earlier in the year, just solely dedicated to targeting. And we really broke these down well, I thought. So anything else on the indicator aspect? We could talk about what the defender could do to avoid this. We could talk, you know, what we're seeing here, but I think we've covered it.
Yeah, you touched on it, Brandon. There's a comment in the chat room about bracing himself. This defender is doing a lot more than bracing himself for the contact. You can see he's going through the body. You can see he's moving himself forward. He actually ends up beyond where the initial contact point was, which means he's not bracing himself. He's actually thrusting himself. I don't want to use the word thrust because it's not really a thrust, but he's going through the body. He's attempting to punish by driving himself through the body of the receiver, not necessarily just catching the contact of the receiver.
Yeah. Okay. And then, you know, we've seen the play a million times now, but pull number 3 is the contact forcible to the head neck area. And you're like, really, you're wasting my time with this pull. But, you know, I think it's going to illustrate what does it really illustrate the 3 pulls in conjunction with each other, guys? What, you know, how would you lay that out?
Well, what we've done is gone through our checklist, haven't we? I mean, when we start talking about targeting, is it targeting and not targeting? I think oftentimes, especially just from a TV and or fan perspective, we get into these conversations about, and you even got if for those of you that were watching the game live, a sense of it from the commentators on this play, some kind of these subjective, like, well, you know, he didn't mean to do that. They didn't use that language, but I'm just trying to create a picture where we're looking at these different elements, trying to decide if it's a foul or not, and we don't really live in that world. For us, it's a pretty I certainly wouldn't call it simple, but it's a very established continuum that we're going to go down, and it's going to start just like we did tonight. Is the player defenseless? Is the tackle in an attacking manner more so than just a normal, you know, legal tackle? And is it to the head or neck area? And so when we go through that checklist, as we kind of check those boxes mentally, albeit in the blink of an eye, that's really where we're going to land. Is this targeting or not? That other stuff about, well, you know, I don't. That's not the hit they want out of the game. And whether or not this is or isn't, that's not my point. I'm just saying that's one of the things, that's some of the language we throw in there when we're trying to make these decisions, that for us as officials, can be helpful in some contexts, but in targeting, when we have this very clear process of is he defenseless, is he attacking, is the contact to the head or neck area, we don't really need to get outside of those lines, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think.
I just, I want to say that this has been a very academic discussion that we've really had here. This is great. Let's get into it a little bit. I mean, look, this is a football play. So, what did he do wrong? This is a football play. That's what we've heard, right? We've heard that over and over. Everybody on the study group tonight. This is a football play. What else do you want him to do? And we can empathize with that. I think most of us played at some level. If you're like me, not a very high level, but and we can empathize with this guy just kind of coming in and perhaps, trying to bust the ball loose or whatever. He's trying to make a football play.
That's right.
How do we communicate in that when that is what is coming back to us?
When I watch this play and just that little snippet of number one tapping to his shoulder, it makes you wonder what is coached and what these players think, what they know of targeting, because we often hear, the TV announcers say, well, there was helmet to helmet contact. And, they think that that's what the end all be all of targeting is. And we all know that that's not the case. And so I wonder if these players sometimes think, okay, if I just hit with my shoulder anywhere, I'm going to be okay, instead of, launching with the head. Whereas, a shoulder to the head of a defensive player is the same thing as going in there like a missile with your helmet. So I'm just curious to know if what's being taught out there in that regard. Because number one seems like he thinks he's completely innocent of this foul, which is not new. But
right. And I think, Corey, I think the coach was confused as well, because that's what they look at it on the screen. They say, well, he used his shoulder, and they don't understand, like you mentioned, targeting does not necessarily mean helmet to helmet contact. And I think they're savvy enough to understand that if a kid launches and uses his shoulder, that's still a foul. Like launches into, like if a player, let's say he's stretched up in the air, jumping to catch the pass, and then the defender launches and hits him with the shoulder in his head. I think they understand that that's a foul, but I don't think that they understand that even if your strike zone is low, if you attack and you initiate forcible contact to the head and neck area of a defenseless player, it is targeting. I don't think they understand that nuance of it.
Well, you guys remember, Tutai, you remember when I call it the targeting craze. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but the targeting craze began. One of the things we were thinking about and being coached on is about this idea of position change by the receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, is that still a thing, guys? Do you feel like that's something we're still considering? And is that a reason for us to lay off a flag either here or just in general?
I think we've gotten away from that. I think we put all of the onus on that defender.
Okay.
And, in this situation, I mean, I think to Brandon's question, what else do we want this guy to do? I mean, we'd look for him to probably absorb more of this contact than deliver. Would you not agree with that? I mean, the number 12, he's going to the ground. He's not going anywhere.
He's in a real
put your hands down, help him to the ground, something,
Yeah, make a play on the football, right? I mean,
right.
And the way these guys, whether it's late hits out of bounds in that category, or sliding quarterbacks, or hits to a potential a passer, or whatever it is, these guys are amazing how they can change and alter their approach and really show us some type of body language to avoid punishing, which just unfortunately doesn't exist here. I don't think any of us love this, that it's a foul. I mean, it's not like we all love this game, but it is a foul. I mean, and yet the onus is absolutely on the defender here, especially when the receiver is in a defenseless posture. No question about it. Position change could come in perhaps on crown of the helmet, but gosh, if he's got that linear body posture delivering a blow with the crown of his helmet, I don't even know if position change would even apply there. You know what I mean?
All right.
So I think we've really tried to get that. I mean, because as Daniel's right, when we first went down this targeting road, we did kind of exonerate some of those hits for body for position change. But I think as we have all evolved as officials in processing targeting, we've really we've gotten away from that for the most part.
You know what we were doing? We were using it as an excuse.
Correct.
to be inaccurate.
Yeah,
That's what we were doing.
that's right.
You know, every football official, they hate to throw kids out of games. I think most of us, that's the last thing we want to do. And so it gave us one out to not throw a kid out of the game. And obviously that was well before replay got involved with targeting.
Quick last question here. You know, Joseph asked, no foul if he lowers his target. I would probably ask the defender, do you feel like your target was low? And I bet you he would say yes, don't you think?
Yes.
You know, because it's not like he's really up high.
No,
it's
he's really
just
low.
really unfortunate, you know, but this is, and we just got to be able to recognize our opponents in a defenseless posture and then not attack him at the head and neck area. It's not, we don't think it's easy. But when we see these kinds of actions, you know, it's just really a good one to recognize because it's not one of your classic, you know, targeting patterns, in my opinion.
Right. Hey, Brandon, 2 things before we move on. You asked us about, you know, we asked these 3 different poll questions. For me, what this helps out is when we have these discussions on the field, you see the back judge had a conversation with the side judge prior to them having this conversation with the referee. Well, if we don't have all 3 of these elements present, then we need to start talking about, do we really have targeting? And those are the 3 questions, and those are the 3 elements that we really need to consider every time we have this type of action.
That's right.
So that's what these poll questions are intended for us to understand what those elements are and be able to use them in our conversations instead of just, hey, you have targeting? Yeah, I have targeting. Oh, okay, cool. And then move on. Because I mean, that's not good enough.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That from the back judge, and that could be any position on the field, right?
Yes.
Those are the questions that should drive the conversation if we have doubt. Those are the things you have to ask. And then, of course, if you know maybe we answer no to the defenseless part, the only other question we would ask is, okay, did he use the crown of his helmet to initiate forcible contact? Right.
Hey, and the last thing, this was the second play of the game.
Yeah.
How focused do you have to be as an official to, on the second play of the game, be ready to throw this flag? This is a tough flag, as Corey mentioned. Man, you're kicking somebody out of the game. This is a big deal. So on the second play of the game, come on, man. This is what a hell of a call. What a great job to be able to do that.
And not your classic, everybody in the building knows it's targeting. Yeah, right. Great call.
No, I was very impressed by this call. I mean, and the mechanics of the side judge on this was great. He's getting stationary as this is happening, which you've heard us all harp on before, that, you know, you get stationary, you see these details, and, you know, you notice it from the Skycam footage of that, you know, that side judge is really settling in as this has happened, which has allowed him to see. And I mean, you bring up a great point, too. I mean, the second play of a championship game like this, you know, you might still be a little fluttery, little butterflies in the stomach still. To have that the wherewithal and the mental fortitude to get that flag out is commendable.
Yeah, love all the questions. Check it out. The last one was like 4 questions ago, but these are really good. How does this conversation sound on the field? It's just what Tutas said. If we all get in the habit of this language, of this 3-step process we just laid out, you know, then we're all going to be more consistent, I think, in our language of the game. Plus, realize that this is the exact process that in games with instant replay, you know, the play automatically goes to review, or in some levels, the play is reviewed at halftime. I believe that's still the mechanic. You know, this process should be taking place. So it should be taking place when we make the call on the field and we get to our partner official, which we saw the officials do mechanically very well. It should be taking place in the replay booth, and then it should be taking place, you know, at halftime if we have that rule where we review it at halftime or whatever. So, you guys got anything to add to that before we go on?
No, I think I'm good.
Nope.
Cool. All right.
Good start.
Good start. And we're not going to get through another study group without talking the process of the catch. We could have gone into it on that play.
Why would you want to?
Right. Why would you want to? So here we go. I think, let's see, where are we at now? This is Pac-12 football, baby. I love it. I love the Pac-12. Okay, now check out this poll. So we're going to see this play. And is the play going? Yes, it is. Very good. Okay. Now, the play actually stops, just to give a little more detail because it's a little blurry and the camera angle is a little weird. But, so this pull forward, assume the game clock is under 2 minutes. So you don't see a game clock on here, but just assume it's under 2 minutes in the half, either the second or the fourth quarter. And then which of these statements, best applies to the clock status for the next play. Okay. So we're asking you to basically check this play out. It loops, kind of analyze and synthesize what's going on with this player catching this ball. And then based on that, how are we going to handle the clock going to the next play? And if you even want to have a lot of fun, make the line to gain that 40-yard line right there. If you want, you don't have to, but just make the line to gain the 40-yard line. And we can have a whole lot of fun. So lots of options. Option one, the receiver achieved control of the ball with his knee down on the field of play. Does that best apply to indicate this clock status for the next play? The receiver completed the process of the catch out of bounds. That's a true statement. But does that, best apply for the clock status? Or maybe you're saying, look, it doesn't matter because we're just going to use philosophy here. We're under 2, give the receiver out of bounds. All right. Or then the last option is it doesn't matter because I don't know what you're talking about, this catch, stuff. He's out of bounds once he completes the process of the catch. So just rule it incomplete and get out of here with your clock status talk. So I think we're going to let this poll run a little bit. You guys got a little filler?
So, Brandon, are you saying that he bobbled this ball? Is that what you're saying? He bobbled it in the field of play and finally secured possession after he was out of bounds? Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that.
No,
Did I say that?
No. I don't know. I was just asking.
Oh, okay. No. The receiver absolutely controlled the ball in the field of play. Right there when it pauses, I know my audio with your video might not be synced up, but there's a pause in the video, and that's meant when his knee's on the ground, he controls the ball with his knee in the field of play and then completes the process of the catch out of bounds. And yet, you're right. That's a good clarification. He's what we stick the ball, right?
Okay. There you go. Gotcha.
Is that your language you use? You use that with a coach? He stuck it. He stuck the ball, coach. I'm serious. I
don't use that language with a coach.
I think you can use that with a coach.
I use that with.
Really?
Yeah.
Y'all use that?
Okay.
I don't use that.
I don't talk to coaches, but if I did, I would feel free to.
I had a tight catch fumble this year that I used that exact language, and I didn't know if they would respond to it. It was really kind of a beta test, and they understood that language right off the bat. So I may use that going forward again.
Okay, so let's just define it real quick. What do we mean by that? I've done it, but why not? Like, repetition is
when I think of sticking the catch is when that ball gets into either the receiver's hands or body. It could be the body. It's typically the hands. That ball just stops. There's no jostling. There's no movement. There's no secondary action to get that firm control. It sticks into his hands and it doesn't move. And so I don't know if I'm painting a good picture, but that's how my mind processes it when I look at that ball come in to a receiver's hand or body.
Awesome.
Yep. Like we establish firm control when we contact the ball
and never lose it.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think in the poll? So strong majority, but still some stuff to talk about. This would be one we would actually use just, let's say this time of year, we're getting together with maybe a new crew, whatever it is. We just want to make sure we're on the same page because maybe we've been working with our various crews on this, process of the catch, whatever this content. And so it's just always good to establish this with a group of officials you're going to work a game with. So here we go. 77% said the receiver achieved control of the ball with his knee down the field of play. And that best determines the status of the, clock for the next play. And then we've got 8% and 8%. The first 8% is the receiver completed the process of the catch out of bounds. So what they're saying is it would go on the snap. Then 8% said it really doesn't matter because, I don't care. I'm just, this is under 2 minutes. He's close to the boundary. We're going to put him out of bounds by philosophy. And then 5% have this as an incomplete pass. So, what do you guys see? How would you let's go to Corey. How would you really be communicating? You're making a ruling on this first of all, and then you're under 2, so you do such a good job with this on the field in the heat of the moment. You're going to communicate what?
Well, I'm just going to tell, I'll get on our communication system, let you know, hey, he's in bounds. Let's roll this. But we're under 2 minutes. The whole philosophy under 2 minutes, I get so tripped up with that thing from time to time that I don't know when we apply that and when we don't. So I don't think that we would apply it in this situation. Because if we give him out of bounds, then, are we saying that he established control and that process of the catch was out of bounds at the same time?
Yeah. So that's what we wanted to discuss, right? So this is clearly a catch inbounds and with the player down. Now, look, if he loses control of the ball as he rolls out of bounds there, it's going to be incomplete. But we know that possession is established by where we gain control. And so long as we maintain control, then where that body part hits the ground. That happens in bounds, and the body part is a knee. So the knee obviously puts him down. It's a body part other than a hand or foot. Okay, so he is down in bounds. He survives the ground. Process of the catch is complete. Really doesn't matter where that takes place, right? So this is a player down in bounds. And so Corey's exactly right. Tuta, what would you say is the difference, though, with the philosophy of – because there is a philosophy out there where, well, I'm not sure, so I am going to give him out of bounds under 2. That doesn't apply here, and why? What's the difference?
Well, it doesn't apply here because this is a player who's clearly on the ground while he's establishing control of the ball and completing and beginning the process of the catch. When we're talking about giving someone out of bounds by philosophy, that's a runner or a receiver who's attempting to get out of bounds. Like if they dive, or if they run, if they stretch, or they do something like that. This kid is clearly on the ground in bounds. We can't there's no way to make him, quote unquote, out of bounds on this play. Yeah.
Would we want to see, let's pretend he's just, he drags that foot and then goes to the knee. Would we consider it at that point? I mean, the fact that his knee's on the ground, I think that locks us in, correct?
Yeah, he's pretty much sitting down in bounds. It's pretty hard to say that, he's out.
Yeah. So, Corey, is your question foot drags inbounds, knee is down where? Inbounds or out of bounds?
No, let's say he's kind of he's horizontal to the ground almost, and he drags that toe, and then a knee comes down out of bounds in the same process. Mm-hmm. So from obviously we'll assume he survives the ground with the catch, but at that point, I think, would we be okay to invoke that philosophy?
Well, yeah, and that would just be what it would be. It'd be a receiver, that really, after he completed the process of the catch, he's out of bounds because he never actually got a body part other than hand or foot down inbounds. So then he just really is a runner out of bounds.
Right.
Again, possession established with the body part and control the ball and body part in the field of play. And if he doesn't ever get a body part other than hand or foot down in bounds, then he's out of bounds, with possession of the football. So then it would certainly be on the snap if we're under 2. Yeah. And I think it's like, duh.
Right.
in some way. But we could easily get tripped up on this, in my opinion. I'm just watching this play, and I'm like, what did he rule on that? And it cuts off there, but he wound his arm, and it was just really excellent and well handled, and I was like, oh, okay. And he acted like it was no big deal. And maybe I'm the only one that thinks this stuff is a big deal, but it's just a lot of rules at work here, right? A lot of rules at work here. And then competing philosophies, because I've heard, and we had, some folks check it off tonight. Oh, just give him out of bounds. Well, there's certain conditions that have to be met. Really, you already got to be a runner, like Tuta said, and then you got to be striving to get out of bounds. And then it's kind of a question: was forward progress stopped, in bounds? Was it? Did one knee perhaps hit inbounds while a foot hit out of bounds at the same? Well, yeah, then we're just going to give him out of bounds. You know what I mean? But that's not what this is. So what we're
okay, Brandon. So Karina has a question about replay. Like if replay reviews this play for catch, no catch.
Okay.
What is our announcement going to look like? So I guess we're dealing with the same scenario of the clock situation. So what is our announcement going to look like when we come out of review? I guess let's assume that the ruling on the field is confirmed. What is our announcement going to look like?
Well, if it's confirmed, I mean, we probably just say something like, after reviewing the play, the ruling of a catch inbounds is confirmed. The clock will restart on my ready for play signal or something like that.
Yeah.
If we, I think maybe where we could have some difference of opinion, perhaps, I don't know, is let's say the ruling on the field is incomplete. Okay, Now we're going to come back and overturn to a catch. Well, what do you do with the clock? And so a lot of us like to get creative with the clock, right? And you guys have accused me of that before, which is true.
Never.
But how can you accuse somebody of something that's true? I don't like those words together.
I'll have to think on that one. The thing is, what can we do with that? Nothing. I mean, we killed the clock. We're just going to but we are going to start it on the ready. I mean, if we're overturning, to a catch in bounds, we're certainly going to start this clock on the ready for play. Yes. Now then what if we're under one?
Yes.
Okay? What if we're under one out of
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And now we got to talk about timeouts and then options, and so really in that case, 10-second runoff qualifies. No team really has an option to accept or decline it. But if you have timeouts, either team can use a timeout to avoid it.
That's correct.
And that can get confusing because we think injuries and helmets off and then, actual fouls that qualify for 10-second. And we think, well, who has the option and who doesn't? And on these situations, there's really no option. It's just the timeout that can avoid it.
Right.
So we had another question on similar to this from Michael, talking about the philosophy of, when we give out of bounds or not. How does it compare to when a runner's forward if we're in doubt that the forward progress is in bounds or he got out of bounds beforehand? I'm not a line of scrimmage guy, but I know a good line of scrimmage official how I think they would rule on this, but I'll throw it out there to see what you all think.
So I think when we see this, and this actually drives me bananas. Let's say that this kid was contacted inbounds at the where are we going? At the plus 39 and driven out of bounds at the plus 41. And then we kill the clock and then spot the ball at the plus 39. I just want to break a hole in my TV when people do that, because what we're saying is we're giving him forward progress, but then we're going to kill the clock at the same time. And we can't have both. Either he's out of bounds or his forward progress was stopped inbounds. And I don't know if that necessarily answers Michael's question, but we can't have both on inbounds and forward progress. We got to have one or the other.
You can't have your cake and eat it too, is what you're saying there, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think if it's tighter than that, I mean, obviously in your example with 2 yards, I think that's, obviously something we need to, come in with a strong wind. But let's say it's not that tight. Say it's at the plus 39 and then he goes out of bounds at the plus 39 and a half. At that point, if we, good line of scrimmage officials, if they're aware if they have the situational awareness that, hey, these guys are trying to get out of bounds, I think that's at that point, yeah, we want to give them the benefit and kill the clock and give them out of bounds at that point. But that, like you said, that is the key to that situation.
Right. And trying to get out of bounds. So let's say the kid is running in more of an east-west direction.
And running is the key word.
Yes.
Let's not confuse, because that's not this.
Right.
The kid's knee is on the ground. So we want to make sure running upright on his feet. Okay,
right.
Cool.
Yeah. But if let's say at the last moment, Corey, he turns and he wants to run over the defender, and the defender stops him and pushes him out of bounds. Well, hold on now. Clearly you're not trying to get out of bounds. You're trying to create contact with the defender. We want to see the player actually trying to get out of bounds.
More of an east-west.
Yes.
To the sideline. And then I get it, Jerry, really, good awareness on the Zap 10. Then the other comment, your question is a bit tricky. It is, I get it. The process needed to maintain control, which did occur out of bounds. Absolutely. That's the process of the catch is completed out of bounds. But we just want to remember possession is established by where we achieve firm control with that body part on the ground, and certainly that process of the catch can continue. It could continue all the way over to that blue tarp if he's still going to the ground. But That's why we have great sideline catches. We dot that toe in bounds. We finish the process of the catch out of bounds so long as we don't lose that firm control that we achieved. But again, possession is established by the first two elements. The third element needs to happen, but the third element doesn't really impact where possession is established so much, like in a play like this. So didn't mean to be tricky.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Well,
you
no.
did. Well,
It's part of the rule. It is tricky. It's tricky to me. I mean, that's how I have to think about stuff.
No, but
What else?
it's good to be tricky because then you can understand the distinction and understand all the different nuances.
Yeah, so let's stay in. Where the heck was this game played this year? I have no idea. It wasn't Santa Clara.
It was in the Coliseum.
Okay.
It definitely was not Santa Clara. No, sir.
Oh my gosh, what a year. So here we go. You're going to see some hands to the face action. I don't think we've ever talked about hands to the face in our virtual study group yet. So let's talk about it tonight. And a little different of a question, but look, team in red is on offense, I believe. Is that correct? Team in white is on defense. Mm-hmm. And so obviously we have hands to the face. There are hands to the face everywhere on this play, these two players, this interaction. How should we handle this? I mean, should we penalize only the player on offense? Should we penalize only the player on defense? So offense is red, defense is white. Should we penalize both? Should we penalize neither?
Well, you told us we definitely have hands to the face, so you just kind of eliminated.
I see hands to the face on a lot of plays from my position. That doesn't mean it's a foul.
Oh, okay. You're saying, is this illegal hands to the face?
That's probably what I should have said.
Okay.
Yeah. UNR hands to the face.
That's right. Yeah. I think there's other levels that you're interested in that only penalize it as a 5-yard. Maybe you need to stay in the correct rule book or something. I don't know.
Oh.
Wow.
Hey.
All right.
That was aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go, let's go.
If you're going to get hands to the face, I'm going to give you hands to the face right back.
Right. Come on. I feel like this is a little too academic tonight. What's going on?
So what do we think about with hands to the face, Brandon? Isn't there two different types or two different categories, I guess you would say, that we're looking for?
I wish they were better defined, because to me, this is one of the most underrated, tough calls to make.
And let's draw a distinction. It's a little bit different, isn't it, out here on the perimeter with a wide receiver and a defensive back versus a tackle and a D end?
Yeah,
same.
No, Daniel. See, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking the exact same thing earlier. I think we need to have just a little bit different scale when we talk wide receiver DB versus the big men inside, who, I mean, that's what they're doing. They're literally trying to gain some advantage with their hands in hand-to-hand combat. In general, that's not what our receivers and DBs are doing. But, okay, so we're talking, we're looking for hands to the face. We're looking for one of two things or a combination of those two things, forceful or prolonged. And that's basically what we're looking for. A lot of times we'll see it on the inside, as Brandon mentioned, with the interior lineman. There's a lot of hands going up into the face mask area. So that's what
and then they're off. I think we got up and off.
Yes,
it's what I'm usually talking to myself through those kinds of actions, and it's easy to just react to a hand up on a face mask, and you don't necessarily want to do that, because you said, does it really fit the prolonged category, the forceful?
Right.
And it's just really interesting. These players that come out without their helmets fitting so well, then it doesn't take so much force to pop their helmet off, and that's almost, that makes it really tough.
Right.
But it can be a foul. Okay, what do you think? We got enough?
Yeah, I think we can end it. I think it looks like everybody's voted.
Very interesting. So this is interesting to see, right? I mean, I was maybe anticipating a little different result. Let's talk through it. So 86% said both should be penalized. All right. Then 9% said only penalize the offense. And then 4 said don't, just play on. Talk about, I actually agree with this poll result. I think it's a great result. But there's also a thought, we got to get the instigator. And should that apply here? It certainly applies in some situations. Should it apply here?
No, I think when we're talking about instigator, I think we're thinking more, after the play, non-football stuff, skirmishing type things. Does that make sense?
Yes. Did the poll never come up?
You're thinking, the poll's published.
Tutson's just worried it doesn't add to 100%. So.
No, somebody said they didn't get the poll. I don't know what happened with that. So yeah, Corey, go ahead. Can you go deeper into that? Because that was one of the things that looking at this play, if we only threw a flag on the offense and we say, the offense instigated and the defender was just retaliating, how do we draw that line and how do we make that distinction between getting the instigator and whatever you want to call something that's maybe not an instigator type situation?
Yeah, when I think of an instigator, I think of someone who's instigating some type of a fight type of action. Mm-hmm. Not something that's part of the football play itself. And in this particular play here, I think that this is just, it's bad form by the receiver coming off the line, obviously. But it's not an instigating. He's really trying to block this guy for this running play. Mm-hmm. And to say that he's instigating any type of reaction, I don't think that would really hold true here. Now, if this is after the play and they're jaw jacking and then all of a sudden the Southern Cal player jabs at the face and then he gets a reaction from number 2, I think that's when we would think about, okay, what started that whole melee? And that would be number 8 getting his hands up first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then being disciplined once you like let's say you're the deep official, you see number 8 and you decide, oh man, that's a foul. How do you stay disciplined and not start looking for something else? A lot of times we'll throw out flag and then we'll say, okay, let me see what the ball carrier is doing. Let me find something else. How do you stay disciplined and make sure that you see the entirety of this? Because and I think somebody made mention of it in the chat box. I mean, these are 2 separate and distinct overt acts.
Yes, I would agree that they are distinct and overt, but one is in reaction to the other. Would you grant me that?
Yes, absolutely.
And so I think if someone has caused someone to react like that, I don't think you want to exonerate the instigator by, throwing offsetting fouls in a dead ball situation. Not so much maybe this situation. I think they're a little bit different.
Right.
I just don't want to give a guy a free pass because, okay, you pissed the guy off enough that he came back at you. But you bring a great point because a lot of times we only see that second guy, right? Mm-hmm, and we don't see that first person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I know Brandon. He said he liked the result of the play. I was actually the result of the poll. I was pulling for the last option. You
don't want to flag on anybody on this play?
Yeah, I don't. I think I would definitely lean that way just because of the type of play it is. I mean, it's a running play. They're not. Who's doing who?
Right.
They're taking each other out of the play. I think, if this is a passing play and the guys are trying to get out into coverage or get out into their route, that I think would play a little bit differently. I'm not dead set to say that I don't think these should be called, but I just think it definitely did I did give good consideration to just saying, hey, maybe this is a good KTSO.
Ooh.
And talk to both players.
That's interesting, Corey. Okay.
Yeah, and thresholds are going to be set. It's the very reason we don't get into a whole lot of what is it or isn't it, although we did here.
Exactly.
I think if you see the guy's head get pinned back and you want to fire on that, I think you're certainly within the spirit of the rule on this. But look, Corey is kind of hinting at some game management techniques that he's excelled at as well. So I think that's a very interesting input.
So Corey, when you come in, what do you I'm assuming you're talking to these players. You don't throw your flag, but what are you coming in and telling? Because are you telling both of them at the same time, watch your hands, or what are you doing? What are you saying?
Yeah, I always refer to where their hands, and I say, watch where you're placing your hands. Keep your hands down out of the face mask.
Yeah.
Because that's the language that they will understand, I think. And when you say it like that, I think you lend a lot to the credibility of yourself as an official and to the entire crew if you don't call everything like this and you let these players know, hey, I see what you're doing. I don't like it. let's clean this up and let's move on and play another play. And I think that just, I'm a big proponent of that. You can manage a football game more effectively sometimes without our flag than with
Right.
And to Corey's point, and Tutaz, how many times have we run in dead ball, Corey, and said, and the language I typically use is stay off his helmet or stay off his headgear, because this is pretty overt, and I wouldn't disagree with throwing one on each, but there's a lot of times where the defender especially is trying to shed the block and he's trying to swipe hands and he ends up with a head slap that's not dead ball and it's not overt, it's just a part of it. Or the wide receiver is blocking and he gets up a little high and we're running in saying, you got to stay off his helmet, you got to stay off his headgear, mainly because that pisses guys off. Like, nobody likes getting their face pushed or their head slapped. So we do that a lot, and I think that kind of supports what you're saying, Corey. Like, we have a lot of hands get up there throughout the course of play on the perimeter. But again, I'm not suggesting that we can't flag most of these actions. These are really overt. And then I would also add that in the dead ball space, any kind of overt contact to the head or to the face mask is really something we want to go ahead and call in the dead ball.
Mm-hmm. Overt, yes.
Yeah, overt. Anything with that degree of aggression or force in the dead ball action is pretty automatic for me.
We had a series of questions here. I think we can all answer. We can answer with one answer, but the questions in the chat talk about the time of the game, the circumstances of the game. Have you talked to have these players been bad actors before, and does that weigh into our decisions? I think absolutely it does. If it's early in the game, we want to try to manage that and set the tone ourselves. But say this is something that we've talked to number 8 about this before, or we've talked to number 2 about it, and obviously they're not heeding our warnings, so that would definitely
totally
resonate with it if we want to throw a flag at that point. So is it a chippy game? Is it not a chippy game? Those are the types of things, and that's situational awareness is such a huge part of what we do throughout the course of a football game, and to know that type of stuff. And so to answer those questions, I think it absolutely has something to do with it.
And I think it also hits Billy's question. If the defensive player doesn't react, do you think the offensive player even gets a flag? And I think you've answered it already. Just look within the scope of the foul itself, like we're talking about. Certainly all the criteria is there to make the call. With the head being pinned back, that indicates it's prolonged. All right, but what do you think? I mean, if the defensive player never reacts, are you leaning more towards even not flagging it more, or does that even go into your decision making process?
It would for me. If the defender doesn't react, I don't even think about throwing on this, just because to me that is not prolonged. That is a quick jab. And now if this were reversed, if this was a defender doing it to a receiver coming off the line trying to get into a route, that's what we look for as deep officials, or even line of scrimmage if we're watching our keys, watching our receivers. That quick jab to the face of a receiver is enough to take a guy off the route.
That's a great point. So, great point, Corey.
But the other way around, I think without a reaction, I would definitely just go in and talk to number 8.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, then it really supports what you were saying to begin with, and I think it's a great, how we can learn from how you synthesize these actions, since you've seen hundreds and hundreds of these, every year. So I think that's a really beneficial. And here's what you're not saying. You're not saying just let all hell go on the football field,
No.
And I don't think anybody's hearing you say that. I'm not, but I just want to make sure. So, these guys are saying just to basically let them murder each other. No, you're talking about techniques to manage the game. And you said, if this has escalated after warnings, then you are going to have to unfortunately flag. And I just think it was really great the way you broke that down and how you handle these situations, because they're not easy.
They're not easy. And we could go down a different rabbit hole with crew communication. Say that, I as a side judge have had a talk with number 8 before, in the first quarter, but then we flip, directions of the field. So now number 8's lining up on the field judge side. I need to communicate that with my field judge, say, hey, I've talked to number 8 about getting his hands down. And so we have to, let our partners across the field know what's going on so that if they see it the next time, they can say, well, hell, 8's already been talked to about this.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of what ifs, a lot of what ifs coming through the chat. I think it's really good. And look, the bottom line is this, how consistent can you be as an official? The context of what your game has, this is unfair to this crew, although we didn't really show whether this was called or not. I don't even remember, quite frankly. We just picked it out because we were watching. What is the context of the game we've talked about? What has been your prior communication? What have you studied prior to the game about these players that you're going to have? How is the chippiness? Where is it at? And there's so many factors is what I'm hearing.
That's why they put us out there, right? That's why we all decided to wear the striped shirt.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So go ahead, Daniel. You got one thing to wrap up?
Well, it's not wrapping up. I apologize.
You're going to keep it going.
Golly, I hate to, but when we're talking about the Corey brought up how we managed the game with the UNR and the UNSs, and oftentimes we hear language about let's call it early so we don't have to deal with it the rest of the game. And I think that there's validity to that line of thinking. I understand it, but here's the deal: when we call 15-yard penalties, especially on sportsmanlikes early in the game, there's a consequence to the game when we do that. And so all I want to communicate, and you guys correct me if you think I go too far, is that calling a personal foul or an unsportsmanlike conduct foul because we don't want to deal with it later is really not a very good reason. We want to make sure, first of all, that the action warrants or rises to the level of a 15-yard penalty and a counter towards an unsportsmanlike that could later result in a disqualification and is going to impact the game, right? Our responsibility is to manage the whole game from the kickoff to when we hit 0 on the seconds. So that's okay. Embrace that. And sometimes it's really hard and we have to work hard at it. But let's not just call these 15-yarders so we don't have to deal with it later. If it's there, if it's a foul, and let's call it. And if it doesn't rise to that level and we can manage the game using our presence and communicating really effectively, then let's do that. So I don't know if I went too far and if you guys want to add anything or clean that up. But
I would just add this. I think that's one of the biggest flawed logics that we use out there. Say, if we call it early, we won't have to deal with it again. I think it's actually the opposite. If we call it early, now we've set the bar for what we're going to call the rest of the game. So if we call it early, then we don't call it late, then we bring our consistency into question.
All right. Jeremy, we'll have no more further comment on looking skinny. Thank you very much for that. Okay, this next play. It's a fun play, kind of a mismatch. That's Tuta's word. Wow, you're rubbing off on me finally. Mismatch of concepts. All right, so we're actually going to start the play out in quads. And then we've got flags everywhere. We've literally got flags everywhere. And we're going to see kind of, some replays. It's actually another hands to the face foul, this time on the offense and this time inside. But we've also got defensive holding. And I think did you see how many flags are on this play too, Todd, by chance? I think there's 4 flags.
I don't remember. Yeah, it was a lot. I don't remember. A
lot of flags. And it's just, we talk a lot about efficiency. There's the replay you'll see of the defensive holds. Okay, hands to the face, good. He's got that's prolonged. Okay, geez. Maybe I was wrong on the last one. I'm not going to be wrong. That's prolonged. I like that call. And then the next play, we're going to have some inside jokes that they jump into the neutral zone.
Right.
Just because, in case anybody was confused last weekend, just because a defensive lineman jumps into the neutral zone doesn't automatically mean there's a foul for offside. So we'll just let that one sit. And then, so going back though to the play, just watch how efficient this jumped out to me. We put the clock up. What we measure for our efficiency on fouls is from the end of the play to the start of the referee's announcement. That's one section. And so this clock shows that. there's 3 or 4 calling officials on this play, and you would almost expect this to take a long time. I mean, it's going to be an offset and all that, but the referee gets into his announcement in about 21 seconds. So just thought that was excellent. And now as we go, guys, what I wanted to talk about too, because I think it's rare, but it's just something to be consistent about perhaps, is look at the formation, and it's an empty backfield. So we know that when it's an empty backfield, what we mean by that is, there's nobody back here with the quarterback. So there's 5 receivers, but aren't we used to usually seeing like 2 receivers over here and then, 3 receivers over here? Mm-hmm. What is this? This is what we call it quads. Is that right?
Yep.
So I think everybody understands our keys when we have quads. Where the heck when we have trips on one side, where do we start when we have quads?
Well, I guess I'll start as a side judge in this formation. I mean, it really, in any quads formation, you're going to gravitate towards the receiver that's going to be threatened the soonest. And so, starting from outside in with what would be my normal initial key, I would stick there. Back judge, and Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you would go to number 2 because that's the next threat. And I think the H would also be there because that's our next threat. Numbers 3 and 4, no one's going to threaten them. So in essence, when we get to quads, we kind of treat it like a bunch. We really do. If, without these 2 defenders being up in a press situation, we would let them declare and kind of go and let our responsibility be dictated by where they go in the route tree.
So correct me if I'm wrong. We count, when you were talking 1, 2, 3, and 4, we count from the outside in, receivers outside the tackle box.
Correct.
Yep. And that just gives us language that we're all consistent on. Okay. So perfect. So then you talk about, I know last week you talked about, real eloquently about, when you learned, you don't only have offensive receiver keys, you also have defensive keys. So that's kind of what you're talking about. These defensive players in press coverage are dictating where you're going to start.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, good. So then if you're going to work, well, you kind of said work it as a bunch, but then we got keys because and you would call this pressed, correct? Are we consistent that this is more of a pressed look, especially outside?
Yes, those first 2 defender keys are definitely in press.
Definitely in press. Okay, so, I think the TV is we'll get a replay and more of an ISO shot, but certainly no reason to go away from these as the side judge. But Daniel, what about the back judge when this receiver, I guess we would call him number 3, he kind of gets to the next level, so to speak, of the number 2 receiver. What do you do with your eyes here?
Yeah, that's a little tricky actually, because Corey brought up a good point that there's a threat there for number 2, and number 2 and 3 are so close together. 3 and 4 are super close together also, but so there's temptation for us to start there at the snap, but really we're better served if we can group as the back judge number 2 and 3 together and work them. And then number 2 is going to be threatened really, really quickly. But with number 3 running right at us, probably not yet if where I see it paused is consistent with where everyone is seeing it paused. But when he gets just beyond the 50, even though there's things going on with number 2, I'm going to have to move to him visually because nobody else is going to be able to support me on this guy. And so we're going to end up in a situation where we're really going to need the deep wing to stay on the wide guy where the arrow is right now. And then our short wing is going to have to stay on number 2. And at this point, maybe one step further, I'm going to need to transition as a back judge to number 3, which can be super challenging because we can see right now from number 2, there's like a extreme potential for a foul. And so we're going to be tempted to stay anchored there. And this is why we're going to need to have an understanding of the whole crew mechanics and ultimately what we're primarily responsible for, because while there's a potential foul here, we also can't allow our number 3 guy to get pulled down at the 49 or the 51-yard line if you're in Canada. We can't let that happen and nobody see it either. Does that make sense?
Good point. So cuts off. Okay, we got a catch. We got fouls. See if we can get to the replay. because I don't know if we get there. That's a pretty good look. Because what you're really talking about, I guess I should have been on this look for you. It's almost like you've seen this before. Because really now, just what you were saying, I think, is that this player is going to be threatened.
Yeah, we got
really need support from our line of scrimmage. And I know we talk about that probably a lot in the passing game. At least I'll tell you where we do talk about it a lot is with our crews, and we have line of scrimmage for years just wasn't too involved in the passing game. And we understand why. But now with the way the game's evolved, we definitely need our line of scrimmage people getting more downfield with their vision, not necessarily their movement all the time, but definitely their vision. You agree?
If this play doesn't show why we need the line of scrimmage to work pass receivers downfield, then I don't know what play would.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, exactly right.
Not to mention we got a dragger coming this way, and I don't even know what happened. There's another player out that went that way, So the old saying, or I don't know if it's an old saying, the saying that to live by working these routes, if somebody's coming or if somebody's going, then somebody's coming, So. And I don't know if you guys have talked about that much, but if somebody's going underneath and somebody's coming right for you, and there's this other, little hands to the face theme tonight. Here's this other hands to the face. Solid call. I think too, Ty, you would agree. We see a lot of hands to the face action, but this is one that really does rise to the level of a foul.
Yes, I think this one is clearly prolonged. And then the thing, I mean, it makes it, this one is obvious because the guy gets outside the frame of the blocker's body.
Mm-hmm.
We see it all the time when they're really in tight, close line play. Like, you look at the right guard. Look where his right hand is. His right hand is getting really close to the defender's face mask, but then the defender's left hand is knocking his right hand out of the way, right? So, we see all of this stuff all the time. Bam, bam, bam. It's almost like we're watching jujitsu movies. But this one on the right tackle, he's outside of the frame, clear and obvious, hands to the face, and it's extended. So this is definitely one that I think is a quality call for UNR hands to the face.
Yeah, I need and want and request a lot that we get more training on hands to the face. I don't think are we processing advantage, disadvantage? Or is it just player safety? Can it be a little bit of both? I think yes.
Right.
But there's not a whole lot of common, categories or terms that we throw around. I mean, maybe there is, but it's just such a rare call. But I think I miss about 10 hands to the face every game, quite honestly. Mm-hmm. And then I look and it's like, oh gosh, I'm glad I passed on that one. This one is one that we definitely want to call. Certainly there's an advantage, disadvantage. It takes away the defenders, like you just said, the ability to shoot through here and then flush the quarterback or put pressure on the quarterback, whatever it is.
Right.
Certainly advantage, disadvantage. Is it so much player safety? I guess that probably doesn't feel too good with your head pointing at the sky.
No, it doesn't.
Shoulder pads and everything like that, and at a weird angle. But certainly it allows look at that. It allows the right tackle to really regather a very solid blocking position. Mm-hmm. And so to me right there, no questions asked, clear and obvious foul. And like you said, a really good point you made, appreciate that, is and the announcer circled the wrong guy, by the way. But a really good point I thought you made was look at the right guard where his first contact is really to the face mask.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's on the shoulder over there, but it sure looks high to the face mask.
Right.
But it's up. And then what happens, like so often, is the defender knocks those hands off.
That's right.
And it's not. But look, his head goes back a little bit. See that?
Yes.
His head really does go back a little bit.
Yes.
And those are the ones that I just like. Geez, is that enough? No. And that's just why we got to keep studying this stuff. So very interesting. Let's see. I don't think we need to belabor the defense offside joke, or do you want to go further on that?
I don't know if we have the other play. I don't think we have the other play cut, but if anybody watched the Big 12 championship game, it got pretty exciting for a while when who was that? Oklahoma, I think, jumped into the neutral zone.
Yeah, in a hard count.
Yeah.
Coach was upset. The alternate didn't help us all at all.
No.
Well, excuse me. I'm not sure. I think the alternate did a rather fine job.
I didn't see him.
And then one more time on the efficiency. I mean, if you've done these groups before, or the spring sessions, you know how much we love this efficiency stuff. To overlay the clock, and I just thought this was impressive.
So, Brandon, it's impressive because you know why, right? This is, for everyone who doesn't know, this is the man who got us started with this efficiency stuff, Mr. Chris Coit right there. He started us with all of it down this whole efficiency path a couple years ago at a referees conference. He presented about crew efficiency, penalty enforcements, and it was tremendous. And really, Brandon and I pretty much adopted it and kind of ran with it. But he's the one who got us started with it.
So, yep. So once again, and this section is measuring basically how long it takes us as a crew to decide what the heck to do, right? Yes. So at the end of the play, what do we see? Appropriately so, headline judge has got his hand in the air. Okay. Now, look, we keep the clock going, overlay it. It's great. Great technology. And then we stop this part of it when we start our announcement, which you can tell, he's talking. And I like how he announced this. This is not what I do, but I think it's interesting too, Ty. He says there are 2 fouls on the play by both teams, and they will offset. And then he doesn't mention offsetting fouls again.
Right.
I thought that was a different, kind of a unique technique. Because look, you'd almost right here be used to getting the offsetting signal, which would be that would be half of the offset, like an incomplete pass signal, right? But
that's correct.
But he got it out of the way early, so just goes to show, really good referee comes up with a different way that fits his style, and just really brings out his own authenticity in this play. All right. Anything else on this play percolating in the chat?
Let's go, Brandon. I think we need to go to the next one.
Keep rolling.
Yeah, we got to keep rolling.
I think we're geeks. I really think we're geeks. We love that. We love the timing stuff. Everybody's like, whatever. But use it with your crew. Just time a game. You'll be surprised. I tell you how I was. Okay, so now, look, identify threats. So here we go. This is really interesting, and not going to really talk about is or it isn't. But what constitutes a threat? So we've seen the play, and I'll just go back. We've got a lot of different angles. What constitutes a threat versus not? When should we move our vision to different player actions? And we talk about this all the time, don't we? I mean, this is officiating. This is what makes officiating.
It's cool.
Yeah. So look at this. Oh man, that kind of cut off. That's okay. We'll go back to the share. My man's back up there. Let's get away from. We talked about you enough, Mr. Coit. Okay, so this play right here, and this is. Let me get to this angle here, and then just let's talk about, what constitutes a threat versus not, and then maybe some visual and physical mechanics. So we get to this end zone view. So this play is going, and certainly we're going to have people looking, at some point at this matchup. Maybe this one, maybe this one, maybe this one, just inside. And then obviously we have receiver matchups downfield. It's a drop back pass type of play. And, just when we think about this, okay, the play starts to break down. So now should we just keep watching where we were watching, or should we watch something else? Isn't that kind of the fundamental question when the play starts to transition? Right. And so how do we identify that? Look at the difference in the posture of this matchup, and then this is just nothing, right? So
right.
Talk about how, because I'll tell you, when I make errors in terms of I got there too late. Well, great excuse, but we all get there too late. Usually for me, when I self-evaluate on that stuff, it's because I stayed on a very unimportant or irrelevant threat too long. Okay, you guys with me?
Yep.
So, I mean, whatever position you're working, what are the things, maybe just, what are the things you're looking for as indicators for yourself to transition to a different matchup?
So, Brandon, how about you be the referee? Mm-hmm. Where would you go? I don't want to tell you where I would go on this play.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we're probably going to look at the different blocks. Where would you go on that block? Obviously, You said, well, sorry, you go from the beginning.
So right now, I mean, the view got cut off from the snap, whatever. We got a quarterback with the ball in the pocket. So by now, none of us should be looking, whether we're umpire in the backfield, the referee, center, judge, whoever is where the blue arrows are. Okay. We're not looking there, and we all know that. But, I'll probably, if I'm still looking here, I'm wrong. I'm just going to say that because that's a clear and obvious double.
Right.
Everybody's high.
Yes.
Potentially have support from the umpire. But I think I would hope too, once the umpire processes this, get off this probably and go to here. So I would still be to the right over here. Okay.
Yes.
Are you good with that?
I'm with you, 100% with you, because we got a potential hands to the face. We got a potential jerk down. We got a lot of stuff that could happen right there.
Yeah. And if this double team up in here, I'll put it in a different color. This one here is going to turn into holding. Like right now, it's not. They've committed 2 players, so that's kind of part of our double team philosophy. It's not that we just ignore double teams, and there's things that can happen. Split the double team, whatever. But that's not happening now. So that's not going to be our highest priority.
Yes.
I think whether you're so that's where I'd be referee at this point. Center judge, umpire in the backfield, obviously you're here, but you certainly are sensing this player coming around unopposed, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty obvious. Good. So as the play starts to break down, we can sense the quarterback start to, start to step up. Things are happening. And by this time, now look, on the field, this looks like nothing because there's so much space between these 2 players. So this is a great indication to get our eyes away from this because we can already sense this guy coming.
Mm-hmm.
With me?
Yep.
Would you have been somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay.
And I probably went too fast because if you go a frame further as you step inside, I know that the running back helped out with the left guard. Right here, I would go to number 69.
Yeah, and I think that's okay. I'm pretty used to because that's a good point because if 23 goes low into this, that's a chop block. No questions asked.
Yeah.
And by the way, our umpires, if you're working back here or here, you can get these chop blocks with running backs, certainly. Okay, there's to me, whenever I see this jersey coming unopposed to our star-studded player here, whether he is a star or not, that's where my eyes go.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Even with the step up?
Even with the step up.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yep. All right. So now we're over here. And it's a good point with this running back. You're talking the running back step up, not the quarterback.
No, I'm talking the quarterback stepping up because he's climbing the pocket. He's about to either run or he's going to step up into the pocket and throw a pass.
Yeah, I'm only looking at this point. There's nothing that's getting my attention from any of this because everybody's sealed. Everybody's sealed. This is the only player that can hurt me.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, so that's at least how I work the play. So now my vision's over here. And, at this play, look, we're still okay. We might get trapped getting into this block after coming off this because he's kind of beat.
That's why I will be looking. That's why I was asking you that because he has the right arm across the chest, and I just see it. Yeah, that's a potential for a hold, and that's why I would be looking right there. That's why I was asking you that.
We also want to recognize great body positions. 69 has great body position. Certainly, if the quarterback tries to cut through this hole, that's a different story.
Right.
So we're good there. But really, to me, I'm processing body position and who's a threat. Okay, so now as we keep going, what do we see? And this talk about triggers or indicators for where we need to go next. And I think umpire, process this as good. Don't worry about the running back running free. Let's get over here.
Yep.
Put that in blue so it's clear. Let's get over to where we're talking about right here if we can. Tough transition. Very easy when we stop it and break it down for 5 minutes, right? Very easy. But as we just kind of watch this, this is what we're talking about. So we got to practice getting off of clean blocks that don't pose a threat. We got to play the odds a little better, and this is what we're play the odds here. Center judge got to play the odds here. What do we see? Or umpire in the backfield. What do we see a lot? Quarterback starts to run. We kind of get out. We try to start moving ahead of him, and that is what we don't need to do. Do you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Stay there and find, like you mentioned, find the threat. But it's so funny. This game is a game of inches. If number 12 had decided to go on the inside, then 74 would have stayed in good position.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, look right there. If you would have decided, let me go up in the middle. Of course, they don't want to do that because they're going to get destroyed by a linebacker. But had he gone in there, 74 would have been in perfect position.
Yep. So this is a game of body position, arm position, certainly. Because what do we see? We see, this arm right here is, or this hand, it's outside the shoulder. Now, if it's inside at this point, maybe grabbing, okay, but certainly outside the shoulder poses a huge, trigger for us that we need to be locked in on this from some position. Umpire, maybe it's tough to look through, but even, I don't know, depending on how the play started. Line of scrimmage, we just talked about being downfield and pass. I know we have a running back in here, so I'm not really sure. But if that was your running back, hopefully as a line of scrimmage, you're looking at this too, I would hope, and not just watch this guy run with the football. So just thought we'd talk a little bit, because I think Daniel and Corey, you guys do the same thing on blocking act, whether it's pump plays, kickoff plays, or running plays downfield, or whatever the case is.
100%. You try to clear a block and find your next possible threat.
Yeah, just from a general sense, two things that I would add for us when we're making this, because we really started this play with the appropriate conversation, and that is, this is really the core of officiating. When you think about it from the context of snap to dead ball action, where are we looking and when are we looking there in the context of the lifespan of the play? So, and I love that we talked about the umpire not working to get in front of the ball carrier too quick, because that's really what we're trying to do as deep officials. But the two general ideas are, okay, which blocks are most relevant to the point of attack when we think about the ball carrier? And then do we have a sense or a working knowledge of what our crewmates are working, right? We may not be thinking in that second, number 69, my umpire is working that block. But if we have a sense of his general responsibilities, this applies to any position, then that's going to help us guide our prioritizing also, don't you think? If we can identify the point of attack and then have a sense of where our fellow officials are working.
Totally agree. Yeah, and I wish we had the capability to see, and we got to start to somehow recognize details. There's one angle that really shows, just the very fine detail of this block by the left tackle. And if I could see every block with this fine of detail, wouldn't that be great? But it happens fast, and he dips a little bit, and you got to make a decision, right? You got to make a decision based on everything we talked about: body position, body position alignment, arm position alignment, legal blocking technique, material restriction, proximity to the, to the point of attack, basically. And then that's how we all make decisions, 200 plus times a game in some cases. All right, what else? Anything to add on that one?
Oh man, I love that one. That was a good one.
That's where we could do those every single play. But
That's beautiful stuff. Love it.
We love arrows. All right, so let's go back. This was a play we had a lot of fun with. I think we're gonna show this. This is interesting. This is a tight end lined up, and so we're gonna get a poll out, and it'll loop. But let's start the poll. Hopefully the poll publishes this time. I don't know what's going on. We're just at the mercy of our technology platform here. So check it out. Poll number 6 is the number one wide receiver to the right of the offensive formation on or off the line. Very simple question, I guess. Even though you and I went 2 hours on this today?
Yeah, something like that.
We'll explain. So we're either going to say he's on the line, he's off the line, or it doesn't matter.
And you clip this one, Brandon, so we can stop at before the snap, right? For screen share.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Yeah, you just tell me where I need to be. And
Yeah, I just want the pre-snap. That's all.
Mm-hmm. So formations, this was funny. We'll let the poll go, and then I'll let you talk about the funny thing that we had. I don't know if we've included Daniel and Corey yet.
No, I'm interested to see what this is all about.
Yeah.
It sounds hilarious.
Well, I'm sure you're not sarcastic. Okay. Okay, really good split here. Emerging in the polls. So basically, is he on the line? Is he off the line? Or does it even matter? What do you think? Let it go.
Oh, nope. So we got a few votes still coming in.
Yep. All right,
there we go. Yeah. Damn, look, Simone just came in.
Oh, there it goes again. This is awesome. Awesome study group. Okay, there it is. 72% said he's on the line. 27% said he's off the line. 0% said it doesn't matter. So I think we're good on 0%. What do you think?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I think we kind of mentioned that before, right, Brandon? If we ever put "it doesn't matter" on a poll question, do not pick that answer.
Yeah. So, look, this was hilarious. We found this play. We're watching the game and everything. Knew a lot of the crew working, which is always fun to watch. And we actually had to take an informal poll of other officials.
Yes.
And what did we find out?
We found out that everybody was split.
Yeah.
We talked to line of scrimmage officials, and they were split, which was bizarre, which was odd to me. So I guess I'm gonna give my opinion. Brandon, let's get can you get the screen share up and then pause it at the beginning?
I don't know what's going on with the polls. Apparently the polls aren't going to. I mean, we had responses, but I don't know if the results aren't going up or what's going on. But so here we are, right at snap.
Right, and here's the key person that we probably are not even thinking about, right? If I can get my circle to work, I think my circle is working. I'll just do an arrow. This dude right here. This is actually our key dude, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
Can you see the red arrow? Can everybody see the red arrow on the screen?
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing with him? Is he on the line or is he off the line? Because remember, we're counting the backfield. And if we look at this formation in a holistic fashion, and the number one receiver on the opposite side of the field, we're saying he's on the line, and we know he's on the line. Well, guess what? That leaves, what is that? 1, 2, counting the quarterback, 3, and we got to have somebody else in the backfield, right?
Yep.
This gentleman right here. So if we're going to say he's on the line of scrimmage, where's the ball? What is that? At the 27.5-ish?
Yep.
Where our guy's foot right here, he's not quite there yet, right? So we can't say he's clearly on the line, especially when we look from a holistic standpoint at the entire formation, and we know there's going to be 4 in the backfield. Now, if there's any doubt, and we talk about the philosophy of blades of grass and all that other stuff, and really those blades of grass philosophies, and you need to look in your CCA mechanics manual, those really count for the people who are split out. It does not count for a tight end being covered up by a wideout. However, when in doubt, the wideout is not on the line of scrimmage.
Covering the tight end.
Covering the tight end.
Word for word in our philosophies document.
That's correct.
Yep.
And really, if you just look at this formation in general, and I keep using the same old word over and over and over, maybe I learned it last night and I want to impress everyone. Holistically, if we look at this entire formation, we got to have 4 in the backfield, right? So why be cute and say that this number one dude at the bottom is on the line? Well, he's clearly not on the line. Maybe he's in no man's land. He's maybe not clearly off the line, but he's not clearly on the line. We see that there's 4 in the backfield. What advantage is gained by this formation by having him maybe 1 foot too far forward.
Right.
None.
You know, and so we're getting some chatter, and it's good dialogue about, well, maybe we could put the tight end in the backfield. And I think we want to be careful because
that's
the tight end and the tackle are in the exact same spot. So
correct.
Then the formation's illegal for a couple.
It's really illegal. Yeah.
So I don't, and I think the way, what am I trying to say? The generally accepted way the game is played in terms of these formations is they're really not as tight, I think, as the rules require. I mean, we've had a little bit of creep with it, but that's where our philosophies document comes into play. And what a learning curve. I mean, there's a whole host of formation type of commentary in that philosophies document, right?
Yes.
And then there's certain things passed around. And, and we got into today talking about, okay, well, blade of grass only applies to split ends and slots.
Yes.
Okay. Blade of grass doesn't apply to a tight end, which is true.
Right.
Except if the wide receiver, if by philosophy, commonly accepted CCA manual, so we're not going by conference here, if the wide receiver is not clearly up on the line like the guy at the top is, then, and you have a tight end, then make it so that he's not covering up the tight end.
Correct.
And I'll tell you, I learned about this today because this is really interesting. I see this stagger by the slot and what I was going to call a split end, which he isn't because we're not going to put him on the line. And I'm like, man, I think he's covering up the tight end. But, we always go back to, we got to know those philosophies cold and the intent of those philosophies, which you laid out very well.
Mm-hmm.
So we've made comments in past sessions about if we could, ask defensive coaches what their thoughts were. And Brandon, you made a comment that we use a lot about a stagger, right? And we often use it to not call an ILF if we can see a stagger between what would be a split end and a slot. Agree? And that's our blade of grass, right? But often we use that term stagger. So what about if we're not moving fast here? In fact, we have 6 seconds left on the play clock, and Team A is on the ball, and I'm a defensive coordinator in the booth, and I'm communicating to a coach on a sideline who is signaling to my defense, and I see a clear and obvious stagger between the split end or the would-be split end and the slot receiver. I don't need to worry about that tight end in the route because I see a staggered, and I know I've been coached that stagger puts the wide guy on the line of scrimmage when we're talking about ILF. Man, I think this gets really, really interesting from a coaching perspective and how we're trying to kind of use our philosophies both ways to really advantage the offense. It's a lot to get into.
It is. And look, the philosophies enhance the rules, but really the philosophies are there because it's just kind of the commonly accepted way the game is played. And I get what you're saying. And I think it wouldn't hurt to probably talk to this I like how you said would-be split end and say, hey, man, if you're going to be a back, be a back,
Right.
You were in the backfield. You're pretty close to really covering up your tight end, and you may even bring back a really big play that's impactful in the game. And we don't want to do that, if we can at all, manage through that. I don't know, Daniel. I just, where did the philosophies come from? I don't know, but they're there for a reason. And I get the fact that sometimes, the coaches don't necessarily understand or even know the philosophies. But really, they're in print. I hate to say that is our liaison of officials' job to kind of communicate that. I just hope that that's proactive rather than reactive, right? That's really what we're hoping on this stuff.
And for the record, I think when I put my shoes in the line of scrimmage, although this isn't a view I'm familiar with, at the bottom of the screen, and we're doing that counting and we're looking for players in the backfield, and I'm sitting here where that imaginary line is that doesn't really exist for us on the field at the what did we say? That was a 27.5. He's going to feel like he's in the backfield to me, which is going to prompt me to look and find out how many guys I have. And I guess ultimately I'm saying I'm I'm on board with that thinking. That makes sense to me. I think it's just an interesting consideration when we have that clear and obvious staggered and we use it for the reverse.
Right.
For him on the line of scrimmage, it gets a little tricky.
Yep. And I think this would be more, so we have the nationally written, philosophy. We use the philosophy word a lot in this play. Great. But look, I think this is a time where, like, if your local conference or whatever league you're working in, if there's a point of emphasis league-wide about cleaning up these formations, then really just throw this play out and make sure. But then hopefully, gosh, there would be a lot of communication, bulletins, video material sent to teams, right? So that everybody's kind of more on the same page that we're going to call this strictly by the book. And really, I think our CCA manual kind of gives us a little leeway, Daniel, to your point, to kind of make it a little bit more advantageous for the offense. And really, it's just a better game when these types of formations that really don't create an advantage are allowed to be legal.
Yeah, I think we had a comment about the very next play of the formation was identical. That brings up. I'm not necessarily addressing the very next play and no flag thrown. What I do want to address, though, is we'll see formations. And if you're working this team and you've seen this formation multiple times and you've seen it, and now it's the third quarter, fourth quarter, whatever time of the game it is, and you see the same old formation, I mean, this is not really something and it's not a trick play or anything like that. And this is something that, from a consistency standpoint, okay, maybe this dude just stepped a little bit too far forward,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we need to be extremely technical on something like this. For me, I look at this, I'm starting to count the backfield. Well, either the dude at the top has to be off the line or the dude at the bottom has to be off the line. And the dude at the top is clearly not off the line. The tight end is where he is. He's right next to the tackle. He's on the line. So that's really the only two people that we're really talking about here.
And the problem would be, obviously, if the wide receiver at the top is off the line. Clearly, now we have a problem. What are we going to do?
Now we have a problem. That's correct.
We can make him covered up, but then if he goes downfield, I mean, we can't skirt the rules totally, and we're not saying skirt the rules, but
we're not.
Know where we're coming from on this.
And I would say let's just. Yeah, I get it, right? Let's get the part of the backfield right, but if we're too loose with this, there absolutely is an advantage to a defense perceiving a tight end to be covered up. Not trying to apply it to this. Let's be careful when we're looking in the backfield, if the guy's on and he's got a tight end covered up, that's an advantage to the defense. I don't know what I'm trying to. Let's just be careful, right? Like in this situation, I think everything we've said makes perfect sense. He's not all the way up there. The guy at the top is all the way on. But if we are covering up a tight end legitimately, that's absolutely an advantage. So just golly, good stuff.
This is where use this play. I mean,
yes,
try to get plays up. And okay, you can listen to us blather on about this, whatever. This is where the line judge and the headline judge on your crew need to be stone cold on the same page on this stuff. And if you're not, you got to have a discussion, because we can't be calling one side of the field one way and one side of the field the other, or one team one way because they run a certain scheme and the other team a different way. We cannot do that. So agree or disagree on this, but at least be consistent on how you're going to call it, understanding there's national guidance on how to call it one way or the other. But don't you agree? Like, I would say this would be, if I was a line of scrimmage guy, I would get this play up and say, hey, how are we going to call this today? Or how are we going to call this season? Or I would take it to my conference clinic and say, how do you want this called? And is everybody in agreement, so that when I have the team in blue next week, I'm calling it the way you called it last week, and you're going to call it the way I called it this week, or whatever, right? So that's what I think is most important here.
So Michael's asking about punching back and punching back or whatever. I think that's a conference by conference mechanic. In our conference, we don't do that at all. We don't punch back. We don't do that kind of thing. We just count the backfield. but different conferences.
Creative formations.
Yeah. Other conferences do have mechanics where they punch back or give a two fingers out pointing to the backfield. Different conferences do different things. So that's just something, again, just like Brandon mentioned. I mean, you got to talk about this amongst your peers and amongst the people in your conference who you work with and your supervisor to determine exactly how to handle that.
And our informal poll this afternoon was a dead split. So, whether you're passionate that this is a foul or not, we just wanted to bring up the CCA manual. But the most important thing is get consistent with your crew and drive consistency into your group. Take this to your local group, drive consistency, and we'll all be better off. All right. Conference championship Saturdays in the books, huh?
I think so.
We're into bowl season, the best time of the year, right?
Most wonderful time of the year. I just hope we get a lot of games, played. I mean, we're already starting, unfortunately, to get some. What else is going to happen? But this has been, personally for me, this has been very beneficial, getting on and talking through plays every single week. I mean, what isn't that what this is all about? To continue to try to just challenge ourselves and grow, and we learn from each other just every single week. I just absolutely love this.
I think that one of the good points too, Brandon, is we don't have to agree with each other. Let's make sure that we understand that we don't all have to think the same way. We don't all have to think alike. We don't all have to agree. We don't all have to have the same judgment. But we do need to understand the underlying principles, and that's the main thing that we want to continue to talk about here, are the underlying principles. We're not going to all agree. Was that hands to the face? Was that an illegal formation? Was that IDP? Was that holding? No, but we need to all make sure that we understand the underlying principles. And we just love talking about all this kind of stuff. I guess, like Brandon said, we're kind of geeky like that.
Yeah, well, Merry Christmas to you guys and everybody on the call. Daniel, have a great holiday with those little kids, man.
Absolutely. You guys too. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the break. Everybody relax up, watch some football, enjoy your family, go a little bit crazy with your diet, have some good food.
Diet?
Well, you know what I mean.
You're a nutritionalist now, I see.
There it is.
You're advocating cheat days.
I'm just saying, enjoy yourself. You've earned it.
All right. Well, happy holidays. Look, we're not gonna rest though. Here, we'll be back next Tuesday, man.
That's correct.
Yeah, right? We got to keep rolling.
Right back next Tuesday.
That's right.
That's right, baby. Corey, Merry Christmas, man.
Merry Christmas, you guys. It's a great time of the year, so I hope everyone has fun with their families and their friends this upcoming weekend.
Awesome. All right, Tuta, send us off.
All right. Everyone have a great rest of your evening. Have a great holiday season. Enjoy your families. We will see you all next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central, as usual.
Yes. Good night.
Enjoy the games.
Good night, guys.